Hello all, wishing you all fantastic times ahead. As always, I'm so glad, thrilled, and excited to meet you all through this fresh episode of this fantastic certification questionnaire series, wherein we are concentrating on the ABAP module of SAP. As always, we have chosen another 5 interesting set of questions for this particular video, and we'll be discussing the answers of each of these questions in detail. Without wasting any time further, let's directly jump into the answers. The first question is, what is the importance of data dictionary? In short, they are the one-stop shop for all the application and system data. So that's what we have mentioned it as, like it's one place central repository for both application and system data, right? So any data that is related to your system is will be stored in data dictionary. Another key point they possess is they have the metadata details of all the data structures, be it tables, views, or domains or data types. They have the metadata details. So what is the metadata details? Metadata, in short, is known as a data type for a data type. So in data type, we will understand what kind of data that can be stored in a table. And this metadata helps us to understand more about the data type. So they are the fundamental definition that defines what kind of data that can be stored in the database, how it can be processed, etc. So data dictionary helps us in defining the metadata. Third most important point, redundancy is eliminated. We will not be able to create the same table again if a if a data dictionary object is properly designed. You will not be able to store the same data again, of course, the same data with same key elements. So that's what, by redundancy, you are saving a lot of space in a database, right? So this is a very important aspect of data dictionary. So in short, the data dictionary is a central repository. It helps in storing the metadata details or defining the metadata details. Third one, the redundancy is eliminated. Moving on, what are the basic and fundamental objects of data dictionary? I mentioned 5 objects explicitly, and of course, all other components of S11 is also basic and fundamental. The reason for mentioning these 5 components explicitly is we use those often. We come across those often, and they are used predominantly in majority of the data dictionary definitions. So I have listed it in a chronological order. Like domains can be created, they can be used inside data elements. The data elements can be used inside of fields or structures, wherein the fields and the structures can be used to define the foreign keys. Again, all these can be used in tables. So that's what when I say I've listed it in a chronological order. So of course, yeah, when you go to the system and in S11, whatever components you see here, they are all fundamental elements of S11, right? So moving on, what are the different methods available to enable search help through domain? I'll read the question again. What are the different methods available to enable search help through domain? So if you have come across our previous videos wherein we have dived deep into the domain, probably you know the answer for this. Let's discuss in deeper. And this is one of the famous domain that we discussed in many of our previous videos. So if you see here, they have fixed values defined. So whenever a field uses this domain, and whenever a F4 is pressed on those field, the values that are stored in this fixed values will be popping up, right? There is another way also. For that, I have to take another domain. If you get into this domain, you will have no fixed values defined, but rather you will have a value table that is assigned. So when you double click on this table and when you check the contents of this particular table, you will have number of entries. So if you see number of entries, there are some 34 entries, right? So all these entries will be popping up for the field which is using this domain in its data element, right? So one way we have seen before as fixed values, another way is a value table. So that's what I mentioned here. The two methods through which you can enable search help for a field through domain is the fixed value definition and value table definition. Now moving on, what is the purpose of conversion routine? So in short, the conversion routine helps us to store the external format. When it is getting stored in the database table, it will be converted into an internal format. And when the internal format is retrieved and shown it to the external world for the business users, it has to be converted into external format and shown accordingly. The reason is SAP database cannot compromise on storing the data in different expected formats. It has a certain fundas, or it has a certain principles only through which the data has to be stored. Only then the structuring or the data, whatever is getting stored in the database, will be structured accordingly. Whatever data that is stored in database, as far as SAP database is concerned, it is called a structured data, right? And only when it is stored in the form of a structure, it is later used for processing, or in other words, the data whatever is getting used can be used efficiently, right? So this efficiency is achieved only through storing it in a structured format. And this structured format storage is only possible when there is no compromise on the data that is getting stored. So whatever data we try to push into the SAP table, they always convert into their own internal format so that data is efficient for usage. At the same time, I cannot expect the business user to understand the internal format, right? So for them, we have to display it accordingly so that they can understand it. So that's what we do. Whenever the data is being retrieved from the database table and showed to the external users, they are converted into an external format. So this conversion of internal to external and external to internal is done through conversion routine. So I will show with a proper example. So this is one of our famous units of measurement table. When I check the contents of this particular table, or I'll show it in SE16N transaction first. So C006 table. When I try to display the first field alone, if you see here, these are all the values that is getting stored. But if you double click on any table, any field here, see for example, the BT is the value that is for the external world, whereas the value unconverted, which is otherwise called as the value through which it is stored internally in the database, it is called BOT. Now let us do a short check here. For example, this is the same table I'm checking in S11. Let me try to search this entry by inputting the external format BT and I execute. Now you see here, it is showing us BOT. Though I have inputted as BT, and when I try to execute and check the entry, it is showing us BOT because BOT is the value that is stored in the database, whereas BT is the value that I know as an external user. Now what if I try BOT here? See, it will not able to fetch the entry because for an external user or an external format, BOT is not available. BT is only available. So that's like when you put the external format being an external user, the system will help you retrieve the data and show you the internal format because that's how it is stored in the database. This will come in more handy when we use it in the program, right? When you try to fetch the program using BOT as okay, when you use in the program, when you write it, when you directly fetch the internal database table using BT, it will not able to find it out internally because BT is never stored in the database, right? So for that you have to convert it into BOT and then store it, and then you have to query the database table. Only then your query will be successful. At the same time, once you have queried from database as BOT, if you want to display it to the external user as BOT, they will not understand. They will know only BT. So in that case, you have to convert the internal to the external unit, right? So there is another example here. For example, like coming back, let us take a famous Mara table. Okay, and let me check for one particular article number. If I double click on this article number, or in other words, if we double click on this material number, see one is the value that I know, whereas internally it is getting stored with leading zeros, right? So if I try to fetch the database table with one, I will never get a successful select. But if I add these leading zeros and try to fetch the database table, then my select query will be successful. So that's what I'm trying to say. At the same time, I can't display this internal format to the external world because they will definitely not be interested on these leading zeros because it doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, they will occupy more space on your reports that you display. So for that, I have to convert this internal format into external. Now, how do you find out the customer or the conversion routines that is assigned? Double click on the field data element and double click on the domain, reach out to the routine here and double click on the routine. So these are the functional modules that are available for converting your internal to external and external to internal. So I and input is for converting your external format into internal, which is 1 into leading zeros 1, and O and output is for converting your internal format into external, which is the leading zeros 1 into just 1. Similarly, let us also try to search the conversion routine for this field, MESEHI, which is a unit of measurement, get into the domain of it. So this is the conversion routine that is available for the UIM. So we'll be seeing the technicalities of it during our programming videos, which is coming in near future. You will have a better, deeper understanding of the same. In short, the conversion routines are used for converting internal format into external and vice versa. Okay, moving ahead. The fifth question, can we maintain same values in different fixed value appends of domains? The answer is no. Let us quickly try this. So this is one of our famous, let us take our famous ABSTT, which we have used in our previous videos as well. So as you see, you have many fixed values domains assigned here from 00 to 09. What I'll do, I'll go and create a particular fixed value append, say z test 1, and I'm putting it as test 1. And here, let me try to maintain the same fixed value that I have already declared or defined in the previous original uh, fixed values of the domain. Now, if when I try to activate, it will throw me an error stating that, see, reoccurs. The limit 09 reoccurs, which means it is already present. Yes, which is right. If you go back, see 09 is already present. So it will definitely not occur. It should not be again placed in another fixed value domain, right? So that's why you got the error. So that's what we told here. The answer is no. You cannot maintain a same value in different fixed value domain. It is not basically allowed. Okay. Now, how does it validate? I mean, how are we validating whether the same value is stored or not? It is validated by this particular table, DD07T. Now, if you go to this DD07T table, I have already have it open. So this is the table wherein if you feed the domain value, and if you there will be different languages that is maintained. So if you check the fixed values, this column will give you the details of the fixed values that are maintained for this particular domain. So you cannot store, or you should not store, the fixed values in different fixed value domains, and it is validated through this particular table. This is a database table that will help us know what are all the fixed values that are stored as part of a domain. So with this, we have come to the end of this set of questions, and I would be coming up with more interesting questions in my future videos. I hope you like this, and all my future videos is definitely going to be helpful for you to clear your interviews, to attend the certifications, and to get a deeper understanding. Thank you again for your patience and time. Peace and blessings to all of you. Thank you.